you're gonna break into. Up on you.
Talking Boxing with Billy C. It began as a podcast, went live on the net, and transformed into a full-blown empire. Across the web, on Fight Now TV, and on radio stations around the world. It's the only daily boxing talk radio show on the planet, hosted by the only guy with the balls to do it. Many have stepped into the ring. Many have tried to take the belt. And one by one, they've fallen. Another victim of the undisputed heavyweight champion of boxing talk radio. Talking Boxing with Billy C. is on now.
My style is impetuous, my defense is impregnable, and I'm just ferocious. I want your heart.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C studio in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Caligiuri. It's time for Talking Boxing with Billy C. Good morning, good day, good evening. Whenever you listen, I hope you're doing all right. We got a busy show scheduled for today. But first, the show is being brought to you in part by CAT's nationwide luxury transportation service. If you're looking for a limo, you're someplace in the United States or even Canada, and you want a hottie driving you around, well, you need to give my girl Cat a call, 202-351-7496, 202-351-7496. CAT's nationwide luxury transportation service. Give her a call today. Tell her Billy C sent you. But remember, she's my girl. Ask her. Call her up and say, hey, we heard you and Billy C, you got a thing going on. 202-351-7496. Hey, the show's also being brought to you in part by Camp and Aaron Tomkovich. If you're looking for a lawyer, use the ones that keep my ass out of trouble. That's Camp and Aaron Tomkovich. Give them a call today, 845-221-4099. 845-221-4099. Let Camp and Aaron Tomkovich knock out your legal problem. 845-221-4099. The show's also being brought to you in part by my friends down at the Halftime Bar and Grill, Route 9, South Glens Falls. Check them out. Only if you like cool people to hang with. Drink specials all the time, live entertainment on Friday and Saturday nights, and fantastic food to stuff your face with. If you like any or all of those things, check out the Halftime Bar and Grill. Call ahead for directions or reservations, 518-79, what is their number? 518-792-4869. 518-792-4869, Halftime Bar and Grill. And, of course, the show's being brought to you in part by Ringside.com. That's right, for all your boxing equipment needs, there's only one place to go. That's Ringside.com. Make sure you mention Billy C. Demand a Billy C. discount on any order you place. And speaking of orders, they have the Valentine's Day special is still going on for all of the apparel. So if there's any, like their cool hoodies, man, those new hoodies they got are really cool. Any other clothing, is got a discount before you get the Billy C discount. So make sure you place that order. There's only one more day today, and actually today and tomorrow will end it. So make sure you do that. And for all you boxing equipment bulk people, whether you own a gym, maybe you're a trainer, maybe you just like to buy lots of stuff, then you got to drop me an email, Billy at TalkinBoxing, TalkinBoxing.com, and I'll get you even a bigger and a better discount at ringside.com, our official boxing equipment source, ringside.com. What's going on today? Well, I'll tell you right now, my man Alex Papali, he's going to be joining us in a little bit. We got the blast from the past. Jackie Fields, former world champion, boxing Hall of Famer, very instrumental in the sport of boxing, in the boxing capital of the world, Las Vegas. So we'll be talking about him. I know, you never heard of Jackie Fields. That's the problem. I just want to say, that's one of our goals here on this show. Not only do we want to bring you the boxing news and all the happenings in the sport, but and of course our opinions, but we want to keep the historical aspects of the sport alive. Now, sometimes you might agree, sometimes you might not agree. All we hope to do, if one listener or one viewer out of our plethora of viewers and listeners, if one walks away from a show learning something or looking at something differently, whether it be good or bad, I feel good about it. And listen, don't get me wrong. I don't expect everybody to agree with all of my views and my opinions, and of course, because I know I know that means we'd all be insane lunatics. But I mean, the bottom line is, boxing is subjective, more than any other sport, and what makes this sport so great is the simple fact and the backbone and the premise of this show. Take two or more people that are boxing fans, put them in an environment. I don't care if it's a bar, I don't care if it's a living room, I don't care if it's a men's room, or women's room, whatever, and start talking about boxing, anything. How you hear that game, 6 Degrees of Separation with Kevin Bacon. Within 6 levels, you can connect Kevin Bacon with any movie, or any actor or actress. Well, it's the same thing with boxing. You could start off with any subject in the sport of boxing with another boxing fan, and literally start bouncing around, whether you're talking about a Pacquiao or Adrian Broner or Bam Bam Rios or a Floyd Mayweather fight, whether you're ringside, whether you're in the bleachers, whether you watch it on TV, you make a comment, and somebody else gives you their thoughts, and one thing leads to another, and then next thing you know, somebody's remembering something that was similar with another fight, and how about this guy and that guy? But before you know it, hours are going by, and you're chatting about boxing. Well, that's the whole idea of the show, and that's what makes boxing so great. I wanted to remind everybody that we need you to we'd like you to follow us on Twitter. It's at TalkinBoxing, TalkinBoxing, and also do yourself a favor, join the Facebook group that we have, Talking Boxing with Billy C. Do a search and join. The thing is we also have other Facebook accounts under my name, so check those out. And hey, you'll be better for it. Trust me. Got some news to talk about. A lot of news, actually. We got Scotty Krause coming up. We'll be chatting with him in a little bit. We're also scheduled to have Joe Santoliquito, if I have time. I mean, last time we talked, he's telling me how great someone was. But the first email I'm going to read is from Joe Page. And Joe Page says, hey, Billy, I just listened to your show with Tony Treem, and on the Primo Carnera segment, I loved it. You both did a great job. Tony sent me some info on it, and a couple of points I'd like to make in response to the subjects that came up during the show. He says, while there were always detractors on any fighter, there was as much or more good press on him than bad during the 1930s. And he did give me some he attached some information for me, which is multiple pages, which I'm not going to get into now, but he says you guys talked about, and this was something I felt we should share. He says you guys talked about how tough Primo Carnera was, and he absolutely was. The other thing I wanted to add is that when you're talking about how tough he clearly was, try this. He says, he broke his ankle, his right ankle, and tore ligaments and tendons in the fall in the first round of his title defense against Max Baer. But he kept going on. He fought for another 10 rounds. He may have went down 11 times, but how steady was he on one good leg? He hit Baer very well at times, and the outcome of the fight was not a foregone conclusion until the end. Primo actually was credited by many with winning several of the rounds. How many men can you think of who could suffer that kind of an injury and still fight another 10 rounds against a quality fighter like Max Baer? He goes on to say, I guess I'd also add that, of course, Miss Sharkey defended her husband and said that the title fight with Primo was fixed. With what loving wife wouldn't believe her knight in shining armor was unbeatable, and that by who defeated him must have been a cheat. I'll stand by what Jack and his trainer, Johnny Buckley, said, that it was an honest fight and a hell of a right uppercut that wrestled the title from Jack Sharkey. If anyone doesn't believe it, all they got to do is watch the video of the fight. Some great points about the injury, especially today, because we hear about these fighters that pull out of fights with unknown injuries. Here, this guy breaks a bone and also rips tendons out and continues on for the rest of the fight. Virtually the rest of the fight. Listen. The skill set, or at least by today's definition of the sweet science, may not have been as sweet back in the day. But I will say this: it's very hard to compare the toughness of the former fighters. And if we must compare, I don't know. I think it would be really hard. Considering a lot of fighters today, which I think is ridiculous, but a lot of fighters today don't even run outside anymore. A lot of them run on treadmills, and if you look at David Haye is an example of a guy that never leaves his plush gym when he's training. Now it works for him, obviously, But one last thing I want to mention about something Joe sent. He sent me a whole slew of great information about Primo Carnera and different stories and write-ups and stuff. But one really hit home with me. You guys know how much I love being a fat bastard, Well, apparently something that Tony and I didn't touch on, and it's something I had heard in the past, but never to this extent. Primo Carnera had an extensive appetite. And I knew that, all of us Italians like to stuff our face. But he sent me a quote, and it says, his appetite was legendary. He said it was reported that for breakfast, Primo Carnera consumed a quart of orange juice, 2 quarts of milk, 19 pieces of toast, 14 eggs, a loaf of bread, and a half a pound of Virginia ham. That guy's become my new hero.
If you're in upstate New York and you need a trucking company, then you need Reselli Enterprises. Reselli Enterprises is trucking at its finest. They have it all. Dump trucks, dump trailers, walk-in floors, flatbeds, flowboys, tankers, loaders, and a full line of roll-off containers for any job, big or small. Reselli Enterprises is also the source for all your sand, gravel, and topsoil needs. Visit them on the web at ReselliTrucking.com or call 315-433-5115. That's 315-433-5115 and tell them Billy C sent you.
Are you ready, America? Then let's get it on with Fight Now TV. It's time, fight fans. Your channel has arrived. All the fights, all the names, all the action. From world-class boxing events to mixed martial arts showdowns and other combat sports matchups, Fight Now TV delivers the hits and more. Call your television provider and tell them you want to get it on with Fight Now TV. For more details, go to fightnow.com.
We've got a great matchup tonight. Fighting out of the left corner is the #1 ranked contender.
No, he is not.
I'm sorry, but who are you?
I am the ideal computer. I am programmed to provide only fair and unbiased boxing rankings. This fighter is the #15 ranked contender.
Fair and unbiased boxing rankings? That's a new concept.
Actually, it is not. The IBO has provided unbiased computerized rankings for many years.
Well, we've still got a great fight tonight, folks. In the left corner is the #15 ranked contender.
The IBO, the champion of integrity. Learn more at IBOBoxing.com.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts. Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you. I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning.
As a young boy, all Billy C dreamed about was one day having his own catchphrase.
And we're back. And we're back.
One boy, one dream, one day, everyone will say.
And we're back. 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 And we're back.
Catchphrase coming soon to a theater near you.
And we're back. Yeah. You're listening to the Talking Boxing with Billy C show. You're watching the replay on LDL TV. Glad you could join us. Speaking of LDL TV, don't forget to tune in tomorrow. Watch the replay of Alex once again trying to change my mind on Billy C's Changing My Mind. Should the government run boxing? I say no. Alex says yes. Check it out if you missed it. It's going to be replayed tomorrow night on LDL TV, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Check it out. If you don't have LDL TV, you can watch the stream, LDLTV.com. We're reading some emails. We got Scotty Krause coming up at the top of the hour. We got my man Alex coming up after that to talk about Jackie Fields. I know, you don't know who he is, but we're going to tell you about this guy. What a great fighter, and actually an ambassador to the sport, so we'll be chatting about that a little later. Given Quality says, why would you want to see a second Vic Darchinyan against Nonito Donaire fight? For what? Vic is finished. If no fight with Mares nor Rigondeaux, move up and stop picking on the little guys. T. Bruce gets donkey of the day. He done lost his noodle. Make sure he knows his rapping skill has nothing to do with boxing. When Floyd Mayweather doesn't lose, you critics/haters will continue to make up reasons to discredit him and come up with new unproven fighters who have been washed up, who have been brainwashed to believe he's talking. Once again, Given Quality, I'm not going to comment on the same stuff that you say about Floyd because you are very closed-minded and you snuck that little piece in because you started off with something else that I would like to comment on, and that's the Vic Darchinyan and Nonito Donaire. I'm not so sure Vic Darchinyan is finished. First of all, he's never been really hurt. I know his style is conducive to a short career. I just feel that it is a sellable fight. I personally want to see it. I do agree with Given Quality about the issue with Nonito Donaire and fighting the small guys, cherry picking opponents, just like his other. I don't know if Nonito Donaire is a fan, but similar to the blueprint that his hero followed. So it's funny that Given Quality could be critical of Nonito Donaire, but not of his hero. So. But I would like to see it again. I just think that Vic Darchinyan, I see honestly in boxing, I think that there's certain fighters that earn, certain things. And Vic Darchinyan, I believe, through his longevity and the amount of fights that he had. I mean, the last statistic, I forget the number off the top of my head, but, we were doing the breakdown. Remember when he fought like a 10-round fight? For his last fight, and I think it was like the first time he had fought a non-championship, a non-world championship fight in literally years and years, So I just think that a guy like Vic Darchinyan has earned his shot, his rematch, his blemish, so to speak, that he's been haunted by. And the political reasons that those two never had the rematch is more commonly known as the Fat Walrus, Gary Shaw. So because Nonito Donaire stabbed Gary Shaw, which I'm critical of Gary sometimes, but I am on his side when it comes to loyalty. So I could see why that didn't happen. But I think enough time has passed where they could have it. Given Quality goes on to say Omar is little brother to TMT. That's why he helped the family. No credit is necessary for these gestures. That's why he doesn't look for media attention for this. This is out of respect and from the heart, doing the right thing for his family. If he went looking for attention, the media would spin it and being fake and just trying to do some good press to deflect attention away from critics and haters. Yes, Omar was a sparring partner, and he got Floyd Mayweather ready for Cotto, but don't get negative now and bring up sparring word exchanges in the heat of battle. First of all, again, Given Quality is blind to a lot of things. Yesterday, I gave credit to Floyd Mayweather for doing that. Not in any way, shape, or form did I use it as in my opinion. I didn't feel it, or do I feel that I conveyed that. I felt that Floyd Mayweather was doing it to gain attention. Never once did I say that. I actually said that I thought it was a good deed, and that it's an unsung thing that he doesn't ask for attention for. So I don't know where you're coming from with that. As far as heating, bringing up sparring word exchanges, I did see a video where he was degrading his sparring partner. And I personally I don't care how heated they are. And listen, I don't care what you say. Floyd Mayweather Jr. doesn't get any heat at anything because he's not man enough to really go in there and duke it out with somebody. Yeah, he fades and feints, I should say, and dodges and misses and brings people in. They tell their opponents what to do, the sparring partner, you're going to do this today. That's it. Don't hit him here. Don't hit him there. And then to call a guy names and stuff, I just think it's classless. But that does not mean anything about the gesture I said that Floyd did yesterday. I honestly and truly believe it was a good move, and I believe he should get credit for it. And that's why I brought it up yesterday. Thanks for the emails, Given Quality. I know it's hard for you to avoid talking about your idol, but anyway. For Browsing says on the Primo show, he just says on Primo. Solid points. This was a great video. Thanks. So thank you for sharing that with us. For Browsing. Triumph Rat says you could do some research, guys. Give me an effing break, man. What do you mean do some research? He says Dempsey was 6'1". Yeah, I know. He says when I was reading the Dempsey, he was watching the Dempsey thing that we did. He says in the first opening minutes, you mentioned that he was under 6 foot. We were also talking about Rocky Marciano and everybody else. All right, so don't tell me about doing research. I mean, this Triumph Rat is probably some 30-year-old or younger. You're going to tell me about research. Listen, I challenge anybody else, anybody that's in this business to be more prepared for any kind of a segment that we do than myself and the rest of our staff. So, I don't even want, I don't even care if this was, done in a positive way or anything. That is something I don't want to hear from anybody. You can accuse me and disagree with me about anything, but don't tell me I don't do my research, because that is utter BS. Fight Now just connected, so I don't want to say bad words for them, But anyway, he does say I personally think Dempsey would floor them. Of course, we're talking about the Klitschko's and Lennox Lewis. So I guess Triumph Rat agrees with us there, at least agrees with me. He says his fitness was way above the Klitschko's. He throws punches quicker than the Klitschko's and much harder. Vlad only has a really good right hand, and the Klitschko's don't have good ring craftsmanship as Dempsey did. They'll be gassing and trying to keep up. Dempsey's only weakness at times was his defense, keeping his hands low and not really blocking punches, preferring to roll. I agree with his weakness of Dempsey's weakness with defense, and definitely with keeping his hands down. He did run in there. He definitely wasn't an example of a good, polished fighter. As far as his fitness, I think it's a different level of fitness because I don't think we can blame the Klitschko's for not being in shape. I mean, these guys are always in shape. I don't think I've ever seen either Klitschko out of shape. Now, we have seen Lennox Lewis at times out of shape, but not the Klitschko's. As far as punching harder, that's an interesting point that Triumph makes here because, the truth of the matter is I've said this before, not with Lennox, but with at least with Vladimir Klitschko. Sometimes it looks to me, maybe I'm crazy, but sometimes it looks to me like he should have more power behind those monstrous punches that he lands. If he lands one of those punches flush, I would think, I don't care who is in the ring with him, I think it should stagger him back. And at times, he lands a solid punch and his opponent is like, not phased. I can see where the accumulation of getting that jab, popped in your face round after round after round, finally catches up with you, and then maybe that right hand hurts a little more. But I agree with Triumph here. But as far as quickness and all of that, yeah, there's no question about that. I have an email from T. Bruce. Now, T. Bruce was just mentioned in an email from Give Equality, and there might be a thing going on between these guys. We don't know, but I'm going to hold off on that for a second because it's a long email that I want to comment on, and we got Scotty Krause coming up here in a second, and Scotty and I are going to talk about some stuff. One thing I want to mention real quick is this. Leo Santa Cruz. Now, in my opinion, Leo Santa Cruz, he comes from the land of the three-name people. He's the guy who I felt deserved Fighter of the Year last year. I know that he wasn't as popular as Nonito Donaire, but Leo Santa Cruz, he was a guy that fought 4 times as well, and all of his fights were against tough opposition. And his style was just conducive of excitement. I don't want people to, some of the younger fans that are trying to, go by the old sweet science and hit and not be hit. Don't for a minute think I don't appreciate that and admire boxing skill, like who. But when it comes to buying a ticket and when it comes to sitting in front of a fight, I think the general consensus is they want to see action. They want to walk away going, man, did you see that? Did you see? I mean, like I said the other day, not many people walk back and go, did you see the feint that Floyd Mayweather did? Did you see him roll that shoulder? Oh, my goodness. I haven't seen a shoulder roll like that since the last time I was watching a snowball roll down a hill. I mean, it's just, listen, it's apples and oranges. And for all the fans that always say, well, the fights back in the day, they didn't display the science of today. They were just, exciting, brawling fights. Yeah, well, guess what? That's why there was fights on TV every night. That's why there was fights, fighters fought twice a month. I mean, it was just, the demand was there. But nonetheless, Leo Santa Cruz vacated his title, his bantamweight title, and now he's moving up to the super bantamweight title. Super bantamweight weight class. He is going to be going for a title there. He's hoping to. According to Golden Boy, he's going to be making his debut at junior featherweight, either on the May 4th undercard that's going to be happening in Vegas. That's supposed to be headlined by you-know-who, but we still don't know against who. Or it might be another fight, but that's about the time frame. As far as his vacated title, he was supposed to fight McDonald, and apparently McDonald and Julio Ceja, who just fought this past weekend, are going to be the guys who contend for that vacated belt in the IBF. One thing I want to mention, they say that Leo Santa Cruz was having a really hard time making weight. It amazes me because those two weight classes are separated by 4 pounds. 4 pounds. If you're having a hard time making 118, I guess I just can't fathom it since my foot weighs more than 4 pounds. So I don't know, man. I don't know. I just 4 pounds is like I could eat a really hefty piece of lasagna and gain 4 pounds. So I don't know, man. I don't know. That's always amazed me with those lower weights, flyweights. When they're separated by a handful of pounds. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. But one other thing I want to point out, and I'm going to talk to Scotty about this here in a minute. Top Rank, their young fighter Jose Ramirez, just closed a deal, and I'll get to this a little later. But with Nike products, so he did a deal. Now, I look at this different. I'm not promoting Nike right now, and I'm certainly not promoting Jose Ramirez or Top Rank. But I want to leave you this thought before we go to break. If boxing was in such a bad state, why would a major brand like Nike, associate themselves with a fighter? The last time major corporations associated themselves with fighters, it was Mike Tyson. Pepsi-Cola was one, and with some of the antics that followed Mike's career, a lot of these big-time sponsors walked away from the support of the sport. Well, and we had the poll question last week, is boxing dead, or is it in a resurgence or whatever? You guys agree with me. I believe it's in a resurgence. But I think this is another indicator. I really do. I think this is another indicator that, not only is it in a resurgence, but, some big corporations now are seeing an advantage of an alliance with professional fighters. We saw it with Subway, even though Mike Lee is not a big name yet. He's got the good guy pedigree, Notre Dame and everything else. I don't know how good of a fighter he is. We really haven't seen him fight anybody of note. But the truth of the matter is that some of these sponsors are coming back. And to be honest with you, I think not only is it a good thing, I think it's a clear indication that that boxing is on the rise.
Are you ready, America? Then let's get it on with Fight Now TV. It's time, fight fans. Your channel has arrived. All the fights, all the names, all the action. From world-class boxing events to mixed martial arts showdowns and other combat sports matchups, Fight Now TV delivers the hits and more. Call your television provider and tell them you want to get it on with Fight Now TV. For more details, go to fightnow.com.
Broadcasting in all corners of the globe, on the web and radio. He would scoff at a stretch of that man, I would think.
You're listening to Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. From upstate New York in the good old US of A.
Boxing is here to stay because we are here to stay.
The best 2 hours of boxing talk on the airwaves.
Hey, fight fans, check out KOFantasyBoxing.com. KO Fantasy Boxing is boxing's only trademarked fantasy game. Check it out, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Select your own gym, your own fighters, track them through a season that can last from 3 months to a year, depending upon which league you join. You got to check this out, man, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Join it today. Again, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. And tell them Billy C sent ya.
Now back to Talkin' Boxing with Billy C, the only radio host man enough to take a punch from Mike Tyson.
Wait a minute, man. Hold on there. Jeremy, man, I need you to take this one, all right?
Wait, what? No way. I can't do this.
Need I remind you I'm Billy C, damn it? Now put on that mustache and get in there.
Hey, look at me. I'm Billy C. Crap.
The undisputed heavyweight champion of Boxing Talk Radio. It's Talkin' Boxing with Billy C.
Test 1 2. Test 1 2. My fellow Americans, good evening. Welcome back to Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. It's great to be here discussing the sweet science with everybody. I love boxing. I love talking boxing. It's what I do.
Bill.
Wait, what?
Bill.
Why are you interrupting me? Wait, what?
Wrong.
What's the problem?
Billy
what?
C.
I did not have...
We're going to have to ask
wrong
you.
speech. What do you mean wrong, Billy C? What's going on here? Fine, I'll go. I just wanted to talk some boxing on TPSradio.net. That's all I wanted to do. I don't need your damn show. I'll get my own talking wrestling with the other Billy C. Yeah, that sounds good. I've always been a Hulkamaniac anyway.
Broadcasting live, brother. Welcome back to Talking Boxing with Billy C. on the mighty TPSradio.net, brother. What you gonna do, brother?
And we're back. You're listening to the Talking Boxing with Billy C show. You're watching us on the Fight Now television channel. I want to welcome the Fight Now audience just joining us. You know, a lot of people have been contacting us, and I guess it took a little while for some of the viewers to realize they even have the Fight Now channel. But a lot of stuff, a lot of you guys that interact with the show and stuff are all on Fight Now, so we want to welcome all you guys. And as a reminder, this weekend at Gleason's Gym in Brooklyn, they got some great amateur fighting going on, so check that out. You can give them a call. Tell them Billy C sent you. Demand a discount for tickets, 718-797-2872. So, anyway, hey, guess what? He's on the line. I can't wait to hang up on him. Scotty Krause joins us. What's up, man?
Morning, Bill.
How you doing today, man?
I'm doing very well. How are you doing?
Not that very well. I'm not doing very well, but I'm doing okay. I got some...
Just okay?
Yeah, you know, I mean, you know... I'm not ready to do a backflip or anything, but... You know.
Well, I'm not either, and truth be told, I'm probably just okay, too, but I didn't want to, bring down your audience, so anyway, thanks for the gloomy start.
Yeah, I know, it's like, okay, kick the leg out from the chair, I'm ready, but anyway. I wanted to, there wasn't much going on last weekend in terms of fights and stuff, so we're not going to really get into that, and even this week, it's kind of weak. Adrian Broner is fighting, but he's taking on a guy in Gavin Rees. Even though Rees has vowed to knock him out, I think it's just what's become the norm to talk smack at these press conferences. And I want to ask you about that. I know how you and I think, but do you think people really listen to that stuff? I mean, has it just become the norm? I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Wait till I get you in the ring. Blah 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 blah. And I mean, does it really sell tickets? Do you think?
I don't know. I think it might. I don't know that I would say, well, it's selling tickets for this particular fight, but I think Adrian Broner's personality, as he continues to do so. Look, let me back up and put it this way. Start by putting it this way. He doesn't keep winning and win impressively, then no, it's not going to sell tickets. But as long as he keeps backing up this talk, as long as he talks and acts as flamboyantly as he does, and that gets in the ring and gives us the kind of performances he's been given, then yeah, I think it does. And yeah, it's interesting, Bill. I'm going to mention something. You're going to get mad at me for doing this, but it's just so timely and relevant, and I just heard it, and I've been thinking about it. So, I'm going to bring it up. Just don't hang up on me.
Oh, no.
Last night, on the episode of The Ultimate Fighter, which I don't know if you know anything about it or not, it's UFC's reality fight show, 16 contestants, and they're all fighting to become the Ultimate Fighter and win a contract with the UFC and the six-figure deal and all that stuff. And they're divided into two teams, 8 and 8, and there's a coach from the UFC, which is usually a proven fighter, a well-known fighter, that will coach them. And then in the finale, to crown the Ultimate Fighter, the two coaches will also fight on the same card. And one of the coaches this year is a guy named Chael Sonnen, a guy that's known for his trash talking in the UFC. Really good fighter, a lot of trash talking. Last night's episode, his fighter was pitted against John Jones's fighter. And Sonnen's fighter at the weigh-in went to shake the guy's hand, and Jones's fighter, instead of shaking hands, lifted his middle finger and stuck it basically in the guy's face. Well, this brought all kinds of boos and, oh my gosh, I can't believe he did that, from the other guys, other fighters present. That's so unprofessional, man. How can you do that? On and on and on. They fight. The guy who gave the sign of disrespect, which became like the theme for the rest of the show, he ended up winning the fight. Now, Chael Sonnen made a comment afterwards, and this is what I want to just talk about. And this is what's gotten me thinking. He said that his fighter just lost. And his fighter was the guy that was shown the disrespect, so to speak, at the weigh-in. And he said, look, if you're the manager, the trainers, whoever, and you're trash talking, I don't like that because you're not actually getting in the ring. But the fighter, if you're willing to step into that ring, or in this case the cage, close that door behind you and settle things with just you and your opponent, he goes, you can say anything you want to say. And the way he put it struck me in a way and made me think about it like I've never really thought about it before. Usually you don't like trash talking a whole lot. It's like, you know what, just fight. But his point is well taken, I think. If you're the guy getting in there, and if you're getting in the ring with that guy, you're going to fight, then you can say and talk all the trash you want because you've got to answer for it, and you're willing to answer for it. Whether you win or lose, you're willing to get in there and answer for everything that's come out of your mouth, everything that you've said. So, to answer your question, I don't have that much of an issue with it. It's when a fighter does all the talking and doesn't back it up. And I think most boxing fans, even if they don't articulate it, I think you can see that they kind of subliminally or subconsciously agree with that principle. People don't mind the talker if they get in the ring with the guy, whoever they're calling someone out, they get in the ring with him and they settle it there. Usually people don't mind that. Look at David Hay. I think he's a perfect example. People loved the talk when he moved up to heavyweight. A lot of talk. Most people were like, yeah, that's right. Yeah, David. But when he wouldn't fight Vladimir, then all of a sudden people turned on him. It's like, wait a minute. You're doing all the talking, but you're not taking care of it in the ring. And when he finally did, he ran the whole time and then afterwards made an excuse, and people lost respect for him. They didn't mind when he was talking when they thought he was going to get in with him and back up his talk. But when he didn't, that's when people started getting upset. I think the same thing is true with Adrian Broner. Look, Gavin Rees is just trying to hold his own. This is the Broner show. Broner, as long as he is getting in that ring and as long as he is backing up his talk, then let him say whatever he wants to say. Because Gavin Rees will have a chance to shut his mouth on Saturday night. And Adrian Broner will have to answer for every word that he has spoken through this entire campaign, through this entire build-up to the fight. And if he can, and he's willing to, and he wins impressively again, then you know what? I think people actually grab onto that and enjoy that because he's a character, and as long as he backs it up, then I think it's fine, and I think it does sell tickets and gain fans. I
agree with that basic premise. If you're going to talk smack, you got to back it up. And you took the words right out of my mouth about David Hay. I would have used. He's the number one guy. He's the number one trash talker that doesn't back any of it up. And I'm just amazed that the fans in England even would want him in the ring. I mean, this guy, he's never backed up anything he said. I mean, the best fight he had really is the Chisora fight. I mean, I think I don't even count Johnny Ruiz fight because Ruiz was so finished by the time he got into that ring. It's just I'm not even going to use that. So I mean, for one fight, but I agree. If you're going to talk trash. Muhammad Ali was a great trash talker, but he backed it up. if you're going to talk trash, as long as you attempt to back it up. Now, there's many guys that say, oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to knock you out. This is going to be we're going to come at each other. And they do, and then they end up getting knocked out. I don't have a problem with that either. It's the guys, and the great example is what you said. The guys that say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Wait till I get you, oh, man, you're going to be doing it. And does nothing. Runs like a scared girl, and I can't stand it. Broner, my point with him is that it wasn't really him, it was the Rees. I'm going to knock this F out, is what he said, And the thing is, do people really believe it? I think, and we have a listener, T. Bruce, who I'm going to read an email from him a little later, a few months back, sent a comment in about Broner and why he's going to be a better version, an improved version of Floyd, is because he not only appears to have, and this is so early in the gate, I mean, I'm not suggesting, he's already accomplished what Floyd has, because, that's obviously not the case, but, he appears to have this talent, and he's willing to go toe-to-toe and do what he needs to do, and I agree, that's going to be exciting. Let's just see if he can keep it up, And speaking of going toe-to-toe, Leo Santa Cruz just vacated his title. And, I kind of thought that he should have been the guy that got the Fighter of the Year award because, yeah, he too fought frequently, but his level of opposition was way higher than Nonito Donair's. But sometimes those types of awards go to the most popular fighter, and I think this kid is underrated. He's moving up in weight now. It's only a 4-pound difference. Do you think he's going to lose anything by moving up?
Probably not. It's probably a move that he needs to make. I mean, he's a skinny guy at 118. I mean, my goodness, he's a 122. That's, I'm looking at my weight and thinking, 4 pounds. I mean, come on. I mean, I'm sure I gain and lose 4 pounds, several times throughout the day. Right. It's probably a necessary move. He's probably done all he needs to do at 118, and that's not really that big of a jump for a guy with his build. I thought he was a candidate. I thought he was certainly a candidate for Fighter of the Year. I still would have chosen Donaire myself. I think Donair's opposition was pretty good, but Leo Santa Cruz certainly a deserved runner-up. I mean, he had a great year and exciting. Not all Donaire's fights were exciting.
That's my point.
If you throw in the entertainment factor, then I think your point is more well taken, because Santa Cruz, I don't think there was a moment in any of his fights where you were sitting there and you were bored or disappointed.
Right. No, and I'm going to get into something else, but you remind me of something real quick. We're constantly, especially lately, I've been getting criticized by a lot of the younger fans, and to me, anybody 35 or younger is real young. But
those 60-year-olds still bugging you, though.
Well, when you're my age now, when you read an obituary and you see the guy died at 90, I say, man, he died so young. I mean, the older you get, when you're 20 years old and you see somebody dies at 40, you don't think anything of it. But when you're 40 and somebody dies at 60, you're like, oh my God, he was just a baby. But anyway. The thing is that, I've been criticized lately about, favoring the old-time fighters and stuff like that. And what seems to be the charge here with some of the younger fans is that, whenever somebody wants to throw in, today's fighters, they use the word sweet science, and they say that the sweet science factor, that I don't appreciate the sweet science and all that, which is totally false. The sweet science has evolved like everything else. Tom Molyneux, the guy my book's about, he was considered a sweet science guy, and I mean, we wouldn't even call him a club fighter today, But my point is this: fighters like Carmen Basilio and Willie Pep and Sugar Ray Robinson and Jake LaMotta and on and on and on. They were exciting. Maybe they don't display some of the defensive prowess that a guy like Floyd displays. But you know what? The popularity of the sport was so much more. And to me, that's a pretty cut and dry reason. If it's exciting, you know, whether you're displaying science or not, if you got fans walking out of that arena after the fight going, oh my God, they don't even have to remember the guy's name. I mean, that's what I talk about with these club shows sometimes. You got these 4- and 6-round fights. You don't even know who the two fighters are, but, you know, you're standing there and you're saying, oh my God, what a fight that was when you leave the arena, you know? And I think that is why boxing was so much more popular back in the day compared to today. What do you think?
Yeah, you know, Bill, I think, you know, I agree with you on this, that the sweet science argument gets kind of under my skin a little bit when it's used to defend a boring fighter. And we hear this a lot. A fighter is boring, and we hear, well, it's the sweet science, it's hit, not be hit. Yeah, but you know what? Usually what happens is that particular fighter is focusing on half of that equation, and that's not getting hit. They're not focusing on hitting. You mentioned a guy like Willie Pep. Willie Pep was a tremendous defensive fighter.
He was exciting, too, though. That's the thing. He was an exciting fighter, even though he was defensive-minded.
Exactly, and that's the point. I mean, you got to be able to hit your opponent and hurt your opponent and beat your opponent with your opponent doing as little damage to you as possible. I get that argument. I'm all for that. I believe in that. But what we're seeing is not that. What we're seeing is a fighter going out there and avoiding contact, not wanting to mix it up because they don't want to take a chance of possibly getting hurt themselves. So they keep their offense to a minimum as well. It's what can I do to do just enough to win a round? What can I do that's just enough to win a fight? I don't care about being exciting. I don't care about it, attracting fans or entertaining fans. Just what's the minimum? And that's not what the sweet science is. The sweet science of hit and not be hit is, going out there and hurting your opponent, going out there doing damage to your opponent, hitting your opponent as hard, as often as you can without taking punches in return. That's a talent. That is something that you don't see that often. And I think we're seeing, a good example of one versus the other is in the career of Floyd Mayweather. I think 5 years ago, look at the Carlos Baldomir fight where he had, the superstars get up and walk out on his performance. It was, I don't want to get hit, and I'm going to do as little as possible to win the fight and to hit and hurt him. And it was a boring fight. And he tended to have some boring fights during that period. He has evolved since then. Maybe it's age, maybe it's just, it's what he has to do now. I don't know. Maybe he understands more the importance of being more entertaining. But now it's more of the sweet science that I believe is true to the definition. He goes in there and he seeks to hurt. Look at the Victor Ortiz fight. I think this is a perfect example. He goes in there to hit, to hurt his opponent as hard, as often as he can, without getting hit in return. That's entertainment. That's the Floyd Mayweather we're seeing now, as opposed to 5 or 6 years ago, where I think you take this definition of the sweet science and you twist it to suit your own weakness, which is being a boring fighter and doing the minimum. You need to be doing the maximum offensively and still not being hit. That's what's talent. Look, Bill, when I boxed, and it wasn't much, years ago, I could get in the ring and spar with guys far better than I was. And I could go 3 rounds, 4 rounds, and not get hit. And I knew how to do that. I mean, I knew how to just throw out a jab and keep them away from me, but I wasn't doing anything offensively. I was just keeping them from messing with me and hurting me, and I didn't want to get hit. So I just go through the motions and keep them away. That's not hard to do at any level. What's hard is to mount an offense, is to stand your ground, throw your punches, throw your combinations, and not get hit in return. That's a talent. And to me, that's what the sweet science is.
No, I agree with you, and Mayweather certainly displayed the sweet science in the Ortiz fight, especially when he sucker punched, legally sucker punched Ortiz. That showed me a lot about him. But anyway, hey, one last thing, and we only got a couple minutes. Earlier, I was talking about the boxing, boxing in general, and several weeks ago, I made a statement that I felt that boxing was in a resurgence, that, all the naysayers that like to say how boxing's dead and blah, blah, blah. I feel boxing's in a resurgence, even despite having a slow month. I believe that, and most of the listeners believe, too. We had a poll question that overwhelmingly won that. But I think there's a better indicator, and it's something I talked about earlier. Nike just made an alliance with one of Top Rank's fighters, Jose Ramirez, and I think that we're starting to see some of these big corporations starting to become back involved with the sport of boxing, similar to when Mike Tyson had all the endorsements, and they virtually left the business, and now you're starting to see it a little more. Do you think this is a sign that that it's true that the popularity of boxing is coming back? I mean, once a corporation wants to, align themselves with a specific fighter, that's got to be a good thing for the sport, right?
Well, absolutely. There's no doubt. I mean, follow the money. I mean, that tells you everything. If sponsors are pulling out and running for the hills, then obviously your sport's dying because they don't want to have any part of it and they don't want to go down with you. But if they're willing to invest their money in a sport or in individuals within the sport, then there's a reason for that. And it all comes back to popularity. I mean, people want to advertise where the people are. People are watching. That's why people want to advertise during the Olympics. People are going to be sitting there and watching. So I think that's a great sign, and it certainly indicates a rise in the popularity. How much so? Who knows? I don't know that we can quantify it, but it certainly indicates there is a degree of popularity now that boxing didn't have for a while. And the more sponsors that come on like that, especially the big sponsors, then I don't think that necessarily makes it popular. I think it's an indication that it is popular and it's becoming more popular. That and the fact that the TV networks are starting to put boxing on again, and it's a slow resurgence. And I never believed boxing was ever dead. I thought that was just an ignorant argument by people that didn't know the sport. Was it relegated to more of a niche sport? Yeah, I think so, but I think it certainly has the capacity to maybe not ever become what it once was, which was synonymous with American sport like baseball or football. It's not going to become one of the big sports again, I don't believe, but it certainly has the potential to become more popular than it is. And I think what you just mentioned with Nike, among other things, is certainly a true indication of that.
I think when Dos Equis' most interesting man, the guy that I don't drink beer often, but when I do, it's Dos Equis.
I think of you, Bill, every time I see that commercial.
It's funny.
I think that's Billy C. Mosquitoes refuse to bite him out of respect.
I know. What was it? There's another one. They say, people ask him for. I forget some of the things he does. It's all funny stuff. But the day we see him in a ring, you see him footage diving off these big cliffs, doing all this stuff. I don't drink beer often, but when I do, it's Dos Equis. The world's most interesting man. When he starts promoting boxing, we know we've come around. We know we've come complete circle.
There you go.
Mosquitoes refuse to bite him. It's funny stuff. But anyway, Scott, real quick, what's your prediction? Who's going to win? Delvin Rodriguez, George Tananapa. I think that may be one of the more competitive fights this week. What's your prediction, real quick?
It's very interesting because you have the known versus the unknown. Tananapa, it's just 5 fights ago, he fought a guy making his professional debut. It was his 28th fight, and he fought a guy making his professional debut. All his fights in Oklahoma. So completely unknown. as opposed to Delvin Rodriguez, a guy that's been 10, 12 rounds, a dozen times, has fought for titles, has fought top fighters. In these situations, I always go for the known over the unknown. So, I'll take Delvin Rodriguez. But this is Tadanapa's stage. It's his opportunity to show us what he's got and who he is. So, I'm curious to see.
And one last thing: what round does the Broner Rees fight end?
Ooh, I'm going to say 6.
Yeah,
I'll say it goes 6. I think Rees is a tough guy. I like Gavin Rees a lot, but I like DeMarco a lot. I thought he was pretty tough. And Eloy Perez and a few others, and Broner's just going through these guys. I mean, he's just going through these guys, and he is at the top of his game right now. And unfortunately, Gavin Rees is going to be a victim of that.
Yeah, I think Broner's he's the man. He's the guy that will be. And like T. Bruce said, I think that he's the better, more improved version of Floyd. And I think it's going to be great for the sport. You think about the talent that Floyd does possess, and if the guy would have been more like what we think we see with Broner, I really think that in terms of some of the way it's split with him, some people love him, some people hate him. I really think that gap would have been a lot smaller because. Even though I don't like the antics that I see sometimes out of Broner, I like him, and the antics don't bother me as much. That when you look at a fighter that you love to hate, I mean anything they do is easy to criticize. At least for me,
Well, I think Broner has a twinkle in his eye, kind of similar to Ali. When he would talk his trash, and I don't like all of his shtick, and the whole brush my hair thing is kind of corny. But hey, Benny Leonard used to get ticked off if his hair was messed up after a fight as well. So Broner ain't the first.
No, and as a matter of fact, it's funny you bring that up. But Benny Leonard actually, if you messed his hair, I remember one account of a fight. Literally, the fighter, in close, they were in close, and he literally put his glove on his head and ruffled up his hair. It pissed off Benny Leonard so much. This was a guy that was not a knockout puncher. You talk about a sweet science. I mean, he purposely tried to dismantle fighters without knocking them out because of his religious beliefs, and he was so mad that his instruction in the corner was fix my hair. Right after the bell sounded, he went out and tore this guy up, knocked him out. And it's no joke. That wasn't a rumor. That's the way he was. He wanted to look good all the time. And Benny Leonard was everybody talks about Sugar Ray Leonard. Sugar Ray Robinson and everything. Benny Leonard was Sugar Ray Robinson before Sugar Ray Robinson.
Absolutely. But you can punch me in the face, but don't mess my hair.
That's right. That's right. And ironically enough, he's the one that had a heart attack. Right? He was doing. He was refereeing, and he was the one that had the heart attack right in the ring. But anyway, Scotty, great segment. Look forward to you next week, my man.
All right. Thanks, Bill.
Take care. That's Scotty Krause, and with the exception of the UFC discussion, you know what? I got to be honest. I'm starting to soften up a little bit with that. Ever since I was out on with MMA Junkie, who's also available here on Fight Now TV, drop him a line. Tell him Billy C sent you.
Talkin' Boxing with Billy C now has official merchandise available on TalkinBoxing.com. T-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, and mugs. And yes, even undergarments. Talkin' Boxing apparel is the perfect gift for the boxing fan in your life. Log on to www.talkinboxing.com. That's TalkinBoxing.com and place your order today.
Join us here for 2 hours as Billy and the gang do what they do best.
Every time I start talking about boxing, a white man got to pull Rocky Marciano out their ass. Rocky Marciano was good, but compared to Joe Louis, Rocky Marciano ain't.
Hit Joe Louis's ass.
Joe Louis was 75 years old when he fought.
Huh?
What?
We're supposed to be talking boxing.
It's Talking Boxing with Billy C.
As Billy C sits here in the multi-million-dollar Talkin' Boxing studios, sipping a fine wine before you're even out of bed, you should be thinking, damn, I wish I had a mustache like his. It's the Talkin' Boxing with Billy C show. He's Billy C, and you're not. Sucks to be you.
Now let's dig into our archives and hear a rare interview when Billy C. first became the champion of boxing talk radio. Hello, Billy C. As the new champ, can we ask you a few questions?
Why, certainly.
Okay, your fans would like to know how you and your corner have successfully walloped the competition.
We're not ordinary people. We're morons.
Anything else?
I'm a victim of circumstance.
Did your success finally come when you made the show 5 days a week for 2 hours? What do you think?
I'm trying to think, but nothing happens.
Now, please tell the listeners what you've learned from making it this far.
Certainly. If at first you don't succeed, keep on sucking till you do succeed.
Great words of wisdom, Billy C. Keep up the great work as the undisputed People's Champion with your show, Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. Any last words to anyone who's listening?
This is your fault, you bonehead.
And we're back. You are listening to the Talking Boxing with Billy C show. You're watching us on the Fight Now television channel. Glad you could join us. You know, J-Man is in the chat room right now, and you know, a typical example of a guy that is caught in the generation gap. You know, like you know, his comment is, you know, he was making some comments about us old timers and stuff like that, and you know, he makes a statement. Rocky Graziano, you know, he says, you guys think Rocky Graziano was a talented fighter? He would get destroyed by any middleweight today. That's so false, man. Rocky Graziano would beat any middleweight out there today. You know, I just don't understand it. I don't understand it. And he's using Orlando Lara as an example, you know, of a guy who would destroy Rocky Graziano. I just find it so funny. I don't know, but listen, coming up right now is a guy who just finished his quart of orange juice, 2 quarts of milk, 19 pieces of toast, 14 eggs, a loaf of bread, and a half a pound of Virginia ham. Alex Papali joins us. What's up, brother?
I only did 16 pieces of bread.
Oh, that's right. You're on a diet. You're cutting back. But I heard you used margarine instead of butter, though, right?
Yeah, smart balance. It's called.
Amazing.
Tub, yeah.
Amazing, huh?
That's crazy. That's amazing if he ate all that.
Yeah, no, I crazy stuff.
I mean, that puts Michael, what's his name there, Michael Phelps to shame.
Yeah, well, he's still stuck on the subways.
Was high.
Yeah, I know. He had the munchies. I was just gonna say it was the subways. You know, just to finish up, a coach says Triple G and Sergio Martinez would be the only middleweights today that gives Graziano a fight. I would agree with Sergio Martinez because of his style and his ability to get away. But I'm not sold yet on Triple G, Coach, to be honest with you. Triple G does come at you, and he hasn't displayed much defense to me. And Rocky Graziano did have a lot of head movement, was very, very rough. I mean, he's not a talented fighter. It's just that the statement J-Man made that he couldn't beat any middleweight today is just ludicrous. But anyway, that's not what we're going to talk about with you, Alex. Jackie Fields, man, who is this guy?
Jackie Fields. Yeah, you know, this is another one of those guys, kind of like Tiger Flowers, that I may want to revisit at some point in the near future, because I feel like I didn't do him as much credit. As much as, you know, I've had so much time indoors the last few days, you know, it's hard not to think about snow.
Why? What, do you still got like 4 feet on the ground?
I seem to have focused more on fights rather than some of the like personal background that I like to get.
Alex, I heard your AOG, baby. I heard your AOG.
Yeah, but what's it called? The thing that I think is interesting is that this guy. Well, yeah. Let's get started. Jackie Fields. His first name is his real name is actually Jacob Finkelstein. And
he was Jewish.
Born on February 9th, 1908, in Chicago, Illinois. What's that?
I said, "Oh, he's Jewish."
Yes, he is Jewish. He was 5'7.5 inches tall, and I guess when he was pretty young, they moved to Los Angeles, his family. And this guy, he's actually a Olympic gold medalist. I would have to say that this is one of those guys who, in terms of skill, he was sort of Oscar De La Hoya or Sugar Ray, maybe more. He had the same nickname as Oscar De La Hoya, and they called him the Golden Boy. But he had that kind of in terms of skill, that sort of pedigree. He was a really good amateur. He started pro with that gold medal behind him, so his early purses, he got nice paychecks. And early on, he had an amateur rival that he vanquished. The guy's name was Salas, Salas. He was another guy from Los Angeles that they had fought for the gold medal. That's what seemed a little confusing. Was I don't know where the game. I didn't check to see where the games were held, but he had fought another American in the gold medal round, and he had beaten the guy. And then a few years into his career, he fought him, Joe Salas, Salas. You get that? See that guy?
Yeah.
Early on?
Yeah,
he was the one. And the weird thing about it is that when they both were older men and they both passed away, they passed away 8 days apart from each other.
Wow. He was, speaking of his Olympic thing, he actually was the youngest boxer ever to compete and win a gold medal, I should say. And he was only 16.
And that was the other thing was Salas. They were both on the boxing team. He was the first Latino to be on the U.S. Olympic team at all, any athlete.
Huh. He was on the U.S. team?
Yeah.
How did they fight?
Or maybe he was. That's what I didn't understand.
How would they fight each other then?
Yeah, I don't get it. Unless maybe he was for a Mexican team or something. But I thought he was born in Los Angeles. I didn't. That's just it. Is that I didn't look at. There's always a lot of cul-de-sacs that come up, and that's one of them that I would have liked to look up is more info on him and that Olympics, and I never did. Because we'll get to it. There's another cul-de-sac that took a little more time. Because there is film of this guy. I did find one film, and it's pretty interesting. It's against young Corbett III.
Which the fight that was so controversial? That fight?
I'm not sure because what I watched of the fight, it looked like young Corbett was winning pretty easily. I didn't watch the whole thing. There's no sound.
Well, wait a minute. Remember, there was another fight with young Corbett in 1930. The one that
I think that's the one that's on YouTube.
Yeah, because the one
in 33 is the one with the controversy.
Right, that was his last title fight, and he was almost blind anyway. But that was the one where most people feel that he was blatantly robbed in that one.
Well, that one, February. The weird thing is they happen on the exact same day, but 3 years apart.
Yeah, they did. I just noticed that.
1930, and then the rematch, and I'm pretty sure. People can check it out. I posted it in the group on Facebook. It's really good quality, but it does have the name of whoever recorded it or uploaded it is right in the middle of the video, but you could still see it very well, and it has no sound, so it does. It is a little harder to maintain your focus because it's like 30 minutes. It's distracting these days. We only have that 6-minute attention span,
especially there, especially on YouTube.
What's impressive is the way, and especially for all these guys that think, those guys, from the old time days, they're not as good as today. The thing you got to look at is reflexes, and check out young Corbett, his defense, and the durability of Jackie Fields. I mean, it's an impressive fight to watch. But like I said, I'm not sure which one it is because I didn't watch the whole thing, and they say the second one was closer. The first one, young Corbett won convincingly, but the second one, like you said, was more controversial.
Well, the second one, I mean, I have a quote from the referee, Jack Kennedy, and he says, "I made a mistake." And this is what was said by Jack Kearns, who's the manager. Says, I made a mistake. I raised the wrong hand. I meant to raise Fields' hand, and I raised Corbett's. which is pretty amazing. I mean, this is a guy that said this in the newspaper, and
do you know when he said that? Was it like a few days after the fight?
It just says in February 1933.
This is from the L.A. Times, February 23rd, so it's the day after. It's an article, and it has quotes from all three. Well, it has the three principals, I guess you would say. Young Corbett 3, then Jackie Fields, and then the ref. And the ref says Corbett's effective punching won him the decision over Fields. My tally gave Corbett the first 5 rounds and Fields the rest, with the exception of the 8th, which was even. Fields may have landed more blows than Corbett, but his punches had little sting in them. So to me, that didn't sound like there was any controversy. Now, maybe there was more to it, and this was just an excerpt that they printed.
Yeah, I don't know, but when you look at Jackie Fields and you look at the fighters that he fought and his style, and I mean, even early on, it's amazing how, I read something that says he rose the ranks quickly to become a contender. Well, quickly to them was 22 fights, but by 22 fights now, guys are thinking of their retirement. He fought on the way up. I mean, he fights.
Compared to some of the other guys we've done from this age, that's fast.
Yeah, well, I mean, look at it this way. Yeah, but this wasn't, nobody's saying he fought for a title yet. I mean, he became a contender after 22 fights. He, with wins over guys like Harry Kid Brown and even Sammy Mandel. I mean,
we did a blast on him. He was a badass.
Yeah, what was he? The Sheik, something, the Sheik, right? But I mean, this is a guy in his 22nd fights Sammy Mandel, Hall of Famer, and then he's got
Rockford Sheik.
Yeah, the Rockford Sheik, exactly. He fights Mushy Callahan, young Jack Tongue.
A guy named King Tut.
Yeah, no, I mean, unbelievable. The you see, that's what J-Man is critical of me because I'm old time guys, but the difference is, I don't see a problem fighting the same guy multiple times. I don't see a problem with, a fighter that seeks out the best that you could possibly fight and then lose and then try it again and lose again. Even if you fight and lose to the same guy 3 times, I don't have a problem with that. It just shows me that these guys were willing to not only make a living money-wise, but also have the bragging rights that, they seem to like to brag today, but they don't have the data to back it up. At least they don't have the performances to back it up, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, that's just an enormous sign of greatness, is to recover from a loss. Now, they would counter, well, what about never losing? And sure, but that's not what life is. Everybody loses in life. And that's the thing about boxing, is that why should boxing be any different? This week we should think about this. You know what I'm going to mention? The thing that to me changed the kind of fan that I am was 23 years ago this week. Seeing Buster Douglas do what he did, I mean, that was something I didn't think was possible. Most of the world didn't think that was possible. But that's what the sport is. That's what it's about, is... look at the way Mike Tyson took that. He went out on his shield. He took a hellacious beating. Today, I don't know. You get the feeling that a fighter who's had so many calculated battles might come apart psychologically way before getting knocked out. I don't know. Maybe that's just something you assume, but I don't know. I think there's something, you don't test your mettle until you've lost and have to come back. I think that's a major knock against Mike Tyson, quite frankly. As much as he's one of my favorite fighters, and I think we're sidetracked, but I think he never came back against a guy who beat him.
Well, the thing is you're right about, yeah, we are sidetracked because you're right about the perception of the O, and you know what? I think it's parallel with quality. Think about this: if you're fighting, and I said this the other day, if you're fighting lesser opposition and you're undefeated, and then people have this in the same breath are bragging about your skills, how good are you if you're not fighting the best out there? You know, I mean, what does the O mean? You know, and the best analogy I can use is you take a sports team, a football, baseball, basketball team that constantly plays the worst team in the league, and they're undefeated or they very rarely lose. Are they that good? Do they have a chance to get better? Fact, it doesn't happen. So you know, like if you take you-know-who and you look at his last couple of fights against, you know, regardless, some people will say, oh, they were old fighters, they were this, they were that. But at least they were, you know, better quality fighters. If he had been doing this his whole career and still was undefeated, I would have a totally different attitude of the man. I really would.
Right, and I think some of the things that Joe Santoliquito said last week were absolutely correct. The younger Floyd Mayweather did take a lot more risks and did fight a lot more dangerous opponents in their primes. But that has changed. And you're right, Antonio Margarito. I mean, Paul Williams, that fight was never going to happen because of the Al Heyman connection. But for a while there, remember Paul Williams had beaten Margarito, and then he gave it back. Did Margarito take it back? I forget. But for a while there, that fight looked like a possibility. Floyd wanted no part of that. Floyd wanted no part of Margarito. Floyd wanted no part of Cotto when it was, you know, when it was ripe there. Manny ended up going with him, but yeah, you know, so he often chooses safety first, especially in this incarnation where he is today. Well, and the last two fights he's talking about, Canelo and Guerrero, to me, that's not the high-risk greatness path to retirement. To me, that path has to go through Sergio Martinez.
Well, I mean, I don't know about that.
For me to think of him the way he wants me to think of him.
Well,
you know what I mean? If he, because that's the way he wants me to think of him up there with Roberto Duran.
He wants you no. He wants you to think that he's the greatest of all time, like he thinks.
He wants you to think about him like Sugar Ray Robinson.
Right,
so
right. No,
he's got to smoke Sergio. Then.
He's got it. He thinks he's better than Sugar Ray Robinson. And you know, T. Bruce. If you go back and listen to yesterday's show, T. Bruce had a great email on that, and I have another one later. But let's get back to Jackie Fields. You know, former champion. The thing that I admire, and a Hall of Famer, the thing I admire the most about Jackie Fields was that he never really declined. I mean, you know, he was blind, virtually blind, and that's what caused his retirement, which they say is early. I mean, the guy started in 1925 and didn't even fight for 10 years, which, you know, by today's standards, I guess is an early career. But he had 72 wins, you know, 31 by knockout, 9 losses, only stopped one time, and that was in his 7th fight against McLaren, which, you know, you can't really knock a kid for that in his 7th fight. The other thing that interests me about Jackie Fields is his post-fight career. He was very instrumental in the sport of boxing throughout the rest of his life. He even was an owner of or invested some money in stocks for the Tropicana in Las Vegas. And when it was all said and done, he didn't leave life with a big bank account either.
Yeah, you know, he's another one of these examples that's it shows you that as much as we talk about you know, sad stories where guys ends up with debilitating diseases because of head trauma, this is a guy where you think, boy, you know, there's got to be, you know, some people, they stay sharp and they're able to do, you know, second careers later, and that's, you know, pretty cool when you find those stories. And he even, at one point, did you see that he edited film? He worked in Hollywood, and that was something I thought was interesting, especially in that time. It's not like today where it's with computers, you know. You used to do it with the, you know, splicing the film together, and to think that he was blind in one eye to do that, that I thought was interesting.
Yeah, but, that was his first job after boxing. He also was involved with a company that sold jukeboxes. Then he had my dream job. He was a spokesperson for a Scotch company. I mean, that was great. That was great. But then he got involved with the commission and in Las Vegas, and he was the vice chairman for the Nevada State Athletic Commission. I mean, this is a guy. He was, by the way, just so everybody knows, he was inducted into the Jewish Sports Hall of Fame in 1979, 1977 into the World Boxing Hall of Fame, and the International Boxing Hall of Fame in 1994. This is the kind of guy, Alex, that, it's a shame that he's forgotten, and most people never heard of Jackie Fields. And if you say, hey, did you ever hear of Jackie Fields? Unfortunately, the name Jackie Fields kind of sounds like some comedian of the 1950s or something. So I mean, it's like, oh, Jackie Fields, wasn't he on the Really Big Show?
And that's just our stereotypes about because it does seem like it's a Jewish comic name, but I'm not kidding when I say that he made me think of like Oscar De La Hoya or Sugar Ray Leonard, because he has wins over guys that were just incredible welterweights. And these were, when he won the title and when he lost the title, they were very weird fights. Especially when he won the title, he won it on a foul. But he has real substantive wins against guys like Gorilla Jones.
I was just going to say that
young Jack Thompson. He was really tough. It's interesting because this is that time when there was a couple of different guys where this was the age where that was one of the highest compliment you could give a guy, where you gave him the name of a previous great.
Well, the thing I was just going to mention about Gorilla Jones, remember, he was a middleweight world champion. So he was actually fighting a bigger guy. And
what's his name? Vince Dundee went on to be a middleweight champion.
Right, Vince Dundee, he fought a bunch of times. How about Hall of Famer Lou Broliard? We talked about him before. He fought and beat him, I mean, amazing stuff with the guys that Jackie Field fought. There was anything you want to share with us in terms of his passing?
What I was going to say was this to me. And this goes to our mainstream sport. The thing about boxing is that, like we talk about, it's legalized assault, and the thing that's interesting is that it always is participated in by the underclasses of a society, because whether it's immigrants or the people that are sort of the downtrodden, the poor, very often the poor, because who else wants to take that kind of risk to make some money? But what was interesting is that L.A. Times, which, remember, they printed that very ugly editorial, the message to the black man, the day after Jack Johnson beat James Jeffries. And here this is, April 30th, 1933, so that's, 23 years later. And it's written in sort of, that sort of pidgin English. Boy, that's a Nazi right. So saith young Peter Hitler Jackson, colored clouder deluxe, as he looks over his good right arm, there's a photo of him, young Peter Jackson, who is not the young Peter Jackson we think of when you think of, the well-known fighter, just another guy who took that name. And he was going to fight Jackie Fields. Well, they talk about he hopes to put the Indian swastika to you, Jackie Fields. And, I mean, it's just really ugly, the way they're pitting black versus Jew. And doing this right at the same time, because that's one of the things I was looking up. I was like, boy, 1933, I think that's right when Hitler came to power in Germany. He became chancellor, and that was. So it just was interesting to me that here is the L.A. Times, a major American newspaper, really still using racism to promote a fight.
It's amazing what they allowed, and we do have an amendment, right, that says freedom of speech and freedom of the press. But today's world, which everybody's always knocking, and rightfully so, there's a lot of things to complain about, but we have improved in a lot of areas. And prejudice at least in the world I live in, is much better than what I read the way it used to be. And when you have guys like Jack London, who was one of literature's best writers. I mean, this guy is known. Everybody learns about Jack London, and this was a guy that some of the stuff I don't even know if I'd want to say it on air. Some of the things that he not only said in public, he printed and was printed. And nobody thought anything of it. I mean, it was like just another day reading a newspaper. And it's kind of appalling when you think about it based on today's standards.
Well, and I think the important thing about history is to look at history fearlessly and because think about that. I mean, that's one of the things about Jack London that people should learn. He was a very important figure in a socialist and powerful in or very helpful in the labor movement in the West Coast. But he also was quite a bigot, and he was a great American writer. So, I mean, a lot of American history is like that. It's checkered.
He loved boxing, and he was instrumental in the Jack Johnson, luring James Jeffries out of retirement. But I tell you, every time his name comes up, Jack London was one of the reasons I got into the sport, and I read a short essay he wrote called "A Piece of Steak," and it just changed my outlook forever. I got some other things to ask you real quick. Of course, we're over our time limit, but that's okay. Jackie Fields, former world champion. He was a boxing hall. He is a boxing Hall of Famer, International Boxing Hall of Fame, 1994. 72 wins throughout his career, 31 by knockout, 9 losses, only stopped at one time, 2 draws. He did have a couple of newspaper decisions. He had 633 rounds as a pro with a 36% knockout ratio. Lived to 79 years old. He was so young. And like I said earlier, when you get to be older, everyone is young. And he 79. I hope I can make it to that old. But anyway, great job as usual, Alex. I hope people try to learn more about a fighter like Jackie Fields. He was a talented fighter. There's no question. But more than that, he was I like to look at him as an ambassador to the sport, because he certainly stayed with it, and that's a whole nother ball game with a lot of fighters. They seem to go in a different direction. I asked Scotty, and I'm going to ask you. The Nike signing with the young fighter Jose Ramirez. I think it's good for the sport, and I hope other corporations follow suit. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, sure, that's cool. I don't know.
I don't know. It's a toss-up to me. I could give it 2 craps about it. But I
don't like corporations.
Hey, Alex, you know what? The reason why I'm so excited, I think it's gonna attract more of the casual fan. I know that that you love that, right?
That's cool. I mean, that is, and we did see. I don't know. I think I've seen that Super Bowl Subway commercial with Mike Lee in it a couple of times now since they aired it during the game.
What, February?
February, that's it.
Yeah. That's no problem. I mean, they all can't say February, and I'm driving. I had 3 hours to practice. I had to go downstate last week, and I'm like, February? That's no problem. What's wrong with these stupid idiots? I guess it's just fun for a commercial, Yeah. How about, have you been following this it's nothing less than outrageous, the Francois Botha saga with this former rugby player, Sonny Bill Williams? First they changed, according to Botha, and other people have backed it up, they changed it from a 12-rounder to a 10-rounder, except everyone knew but Francois. They accused him of steroid use. Then they didn't have a WBA, didn't have a supervisor, even though it was for a belt. There was no supervisor in the corner. And then now all of a sudden, Botha is accusing the promoter of offering him $150,000 to throw the fight. I mean, unbelievable stuff. Only in boxing, right?
Wow. Yeah. No, I have not followed it. I did hear that he had fought recently and had another fight scheduled too, doesn't he?
Well, the funny thing
that was just repellent enough that I didn't really follow much of the story.
Well, the funniest part of it all is out of nowhere. It took place in Australia, so out of nowhere, David Tua comes into the picture and he says, "I want to fight with Sonny Bill Williams now," which incidentally, I think he's only got like 6 fights now. I want to fight Sonny Bill Williams to restore integrity to boxing. You know?
And these are regular 3-minute round
Yeah.
fights.
Yeah. You know, but I just found it funny that David Tua feels that he's going to restore dignity to the sport of boxing by fighting a 6 or 7-0 fighter. You know.
Yeah, by fighting a rugby player. That doesn't make sense.
Hey, you're going to be ringside for Delvin Rodriguez, George Tananapa Friday night at the beautiful Mohegan Sun Resort and Casino. What's your prediction, real quick, before we let you go?
I have not seen Tananapa fight, and from what I'm looking at his record, I think this is one of those sink or swim step ups. I think that the fact that it's a little heavier than Rodriguez has fought at, and I think the fact that Rodriguez has been through some wars, that certainly favors Comanche Boy. But I think that in terms of skill and certainly quality of opposition, I wouldn't be surprised if Rodriguez takes a decision.
You know, it depends which Delvin shows up. You know, I've seen a tale of two Delvin Rodriguez's myself, ringside and on television. You know, I'm kind of bumming that I'm going to be out of town because I would have liked to have been ringside with you. I've been to a Delvin Rodriguez fight at Mohegan Sun, and you know, witnessed his big triumphs and also his not so big triumphs. And the bottom line is, I think you're right. I think you hit it on the head. There's a lot of mileage on Delvin, and I think that it's going to prove one thing in this fight with Tananapa. Is he okay? Because if Delvin Rodriguez, you know, he's been in some wars, man. And
definitely. And I think that's the other thing is that Trout, you know, beat him pretty soundly, and he did not look all that great. Now, was that because Trout's that good, or was it because Rodriguez doesn't have much left?
I think Trout is pretty good. I think Delvin was also in those two wars with
Warlock,
with Paulie Warlock. I mean, come on, you know, that has to you know, put some miles on the old odometer. So I think it's a and remember, George Tananapa is not a young fighter. I mean, he's 30 years old, so he's been around too. So it ought to be interesting. Which round is the Adrian Broner Gavin Rees going to end, my man?
Well, I would have to say that if Scotty set the over under at 6, I'll take the under.
You think it's going to go below less than 6?
Yeah, I think so. I think he. I mean, everybody's talking about him like he's the greatest. You know, he's the second coming here, and I mean, so I think he's going to want to look explosive, and I think this is the kind of guy that he could. Although I got to say, you know, the hair combing, to me, that's Morris Day in the time. You know, that's not new. But that's just my take. You know, remember, you know, Morris Day in the time, he was with Prince. You know, remember that guy?
No, I don't.
Oh, yeah. I'll send you a link to one of their videos. But he always
That's
would
okay.
have that.
That's
when
okay.
When he would sing, he'd have a sidekick come up and hold a mirror, and then he'd comb his hair in the mirror, and then he'd start singing.
You've just filled me in enough. I don't need the link, all right? But you know,
that's a classic, Jungle Love.
I
you
like.
Probably heard it on the car ride from Jupiter.
We probably did. You're right. But you know, Adrian Broner, I think, has the potential to be that next guy. He does. And I think a fight like this, he needs to do what he should do. And what everyone is expecting him to do, make it a quick night. Because if this fight drags on and you know, he tries to put on a show and gets all cocky and stuff like that, and you know, maybe he does put on a show, but Rees somehow manages it to you know, stays on his feet till the final bell. You know, I'm going to be disappointed. Not that I want to see Broner go out there and just, you know, act like an animal, but you know, this is he wants to be the best. He wants to be in the elite status. Well, you know, and no disrespect to Gavin Rees, but then, you know, dismantle, dispatch, dispose, do what you got to do quickly. That's my thought.
Yes, I would agree, and I believe it was Corey Spinks who said in a press conference one time. I'm going to do what gladiators do, and that's gladiate.
Right. I mean, that's what he needs. That's what he needs to do. He needs to get in there and gladiate. Damn it.
Gladiate.
Anyway, Alex, great job. We'll look forward to you next week, my man.
All right, Billy C. Take care.
All right, that's Alex Papali. Did the blast from the past and some other stuffs. I'm some other stuffs. I'm going to take a short break. I say a short break. It's a really big show. We're going to do the short break.
If you want your voice heard on Talkin' Boxing with Billy C., then call our hotline at 845-228-8710. Leave a voicemail, or you could just tell Billy C. that you like his mustache.
Should I ask you your opinion about this idea?
I'm just trying to give you the encouragement.
Listen, all I need from you is to make sure you don't hang up on people.
And if we like your call, we'll play it back on the air.
Billy, you have the knowledge and wisdom of boxing because of what you do and how well you do it.
Leave your name, hometown, and what you think of the show. 845-228-8710. We want to hear you. Talking Boxing with Billy C. Every week, 2 hours of the best boxing talk on the radio.
Mike Tyson looked like he put on some pounds. He was fat. He went into McDonald's and he just said to them, hey, give me 6 of everything on the menu. He put on 2 watches and covered 2 time zones. I'm talking fat here. Got on a scale the other day and it said, come on, one of you guys got to get off. Last thing I heard is that he jumped into the ocean and he left a ring around the continent. He's fat.
Boxing
with Billy C.
Now back to Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. He may not have an Excellence in Broadcasting award, but the night's still young.
And he's got martinis.
So you never know what may be by morning. It's Talkin' Boxing with Billy C.
Talkin' Boxing with Billy C.
The one, the only, Don King.
Makes me feel good, Billy, to have you, the #1 show in the country, Talking Boxing with Billy. So I invite each and every American that's listening to this great show to tune in, because we want you to be there with Billy and me.
St. Jimmy's coming down across the alleyway. Up on the boulevard like a zip gun on parade. Lights on the silhouette. He's just a button edge. Coming at you on the count of 1.
And we're back. You're listening to the Talking Boxing with Billy C. show. You're watching us on the Fight Now television channel. And if you don't have Fight Now in your sports channel lineup, you need to call your local television provider and tell them that you want Fight Now right now. It's that simple, man. Pick up the phone and call. For all the information about the channel, you can find it on their website, www.fightnow.com. Speaking of now, we just mentioned the Francois Bartha crazy stuff that's going on. Now he's accusing the promoter of offering him 150 big ones to throw the match. Only in boxing, man. Only in boxing. First of all, I don't even think he should be fighting, but that's besides the point. I also don't think that contracts should be changed on the fly either. But that's just me. Call me crazy. Adrian Broner and Gavin Rees are going to be fighting this weekend. Broner's the WBC lightweight champ. In the press conference yesterday, the last one leading up to the fight, he says, "What can I say? I'm 23 years old. I'm young and I'm getting it. I don't underestimate him," meaning Gavin Rees, of course. He says, "If we stood face to face, I probably couldn't see him. But I respect him as a fighter," obviously making fun of his height. He says, "I respect every fighter because only a boxer knows what we go through once we get in the ring. Training camp went great. We don't watch any tape. I've never seen him fight. They took away my Twinkies during camp." And he's talking about, obviously, Hostess Twinkies. He says, "Rees is a former champion at light welterweight. He's coming down in weight, so he's he's used to getting hit by strong fighters. I'm not about to miss the boulder on this man's shoulders." He says he's going to be there all night, or else, or until I put him to sleep. We're going to be eating ice cream in no time. Some of the things that Broner says, gives me the tendency that he wishes he could eat like Primo Carnera used to. Gavin Rees, on the other hand, said. Just to finish up, Broner says he's going to knock him out. And he says, who knows, I may be going all the way up to 154 pounds by the time my legacy is done. So he says, for now, I'm just looking ahead to the fight against Rees. Rees says, "I'm going to knock this F out on Saturday night, and I can't wait. His attitude stinks. He shows fighters no respect, but he hasn't even earned the right to do that. What's he done? I've been in the United States for 5 weeks now, and American boxing fans don't like him. They tell me they hope I beat him and shut him up. I think he acts like a fool for no reason, and no one really likes that. Who's he fought? I've seen his fights, and half of those guys just stood in front of him, letting him dictate the pace of the fight. I'm not going to let him do that. This is the first fight that I've trained away from home because I'm going to show him I'm no walk in the park. I've never been stopped. I could take him out in the first round, but I'm ready to go into deep water if I have to. either way, I've trained hard and will be ready to dictate the pace of the fight, and I'm not going to let him get away with a lot of other fighters have let him get away with. I have to watch his right uppercut, which he throws from down low, but he's not the best on his feet either. Work rate is going to be important. You got to love Gavin Rees' attitude. And, I, for one, do like what I see with Broner. Obviously not the antics, but I do like what I see in terms of talent level. So I think this is one of those dangerous fights for Adrian Broner. Not so much because, Gavin Rees is such a deadly fighter, but it clearly appears to me that Adrian Broner is taking this fight lightly. You could say all you want that it's his shtick. It's he's trying to be funny and everything else. But I do think he's looking beyond the fight. I do think he's taking it lightly. And Gavin Rees is one of those dangerous kind of fighters to take lightly. So I just hope that some of the nonchalant attitude that Adrian is kind of showing us is all just an act. And I really hope so because man, would that derail that train? Speaking about derailing trains, how about Donovan "The Bomb" George? It was announced yesterday, and you can read it up on BillyCBoxing. He's decided to get out of the 168-pound class and move down to middleweight. I love this move. Donovan George is not exactly a huge talented fighter. He's got some pop. He could take a beating, but he doesn't have much defense or anything else. But I think this is a smart move. As a matter of fact, any super middleweight that can get down to 160, I would do it if I'm them. If I'm on that team, I would want them to be fighting at 160. 160-pound not only has traditionally been a great division, but there's a lot of fights in 160-pound. There's some talented fighters out there. 168 is that weak division. A couple of things that we're going to talk about tomorrow. Amir Khan is still looking around for an opponent. Apparently, they had their sights set on Josito Lopez, but that's not going to be happening. My man, I don't even know my man's name. No, one time Keith Thurman. He's going to be in the biggest fight of his career coming up March 9th in Brooklyn against Jan Zavik. That we'll talk about tomorrow. Silva, remember Pantera Silva, who took everything Alfredo Angulo could offer? Well, Team Angulo is accusing him of being on the juice. So we'll look at that. Is Michael Casitas retiring? We'll talk about that tomorrow as well. But right now, I want to talk about an email from my man T. Bruce. And earlier we read an email from Given Quality, who kind of was doing some stabs at T. Bruce. But T. Bruce says that, I know my boxing, so I like having my opinions read. This was a response to something he was trying to find, that email that I lost or never got. He says, I know this Given Quality guy. He goes to a boxing site that I visit. I think I told you of this site before. He has told me of some stuff, and even T. Bruce gave away some of our shows, things that we do, and other shows are copying it, and now T. Bruce is admitting that they can't do it as good as us, and that there are a bunch of copycats out there, and I look at it as flattery, but he says, this guy never understands why I know so much about him, and his Floyd, let's just say Floyd fannery, all right? I can't use the word that he used. He says, every time I run into him, I talk to him as if I know everything about him and call him a Flomo. He gets mystified as to why I, some stranger, address him the way I do. It's funny hearing his emails on your show and actually running into the guy and calling him out once in a while. He says, I feel that real boxing fans don't pick and choose fighters to be fans of and fighters to hate. He says, I have my fans. He says, I have my favorite fighters. But if a fighter isn't doing the right thing, you must be real and point it out. He says, Pacquiao is a more likable fighter inside and outside of the ring. Pac's a good person, and Floyd isn't. Pacquiao is looked upon as exciting, and Floyd isn't. Pacquiao will fight anyone, and Floyd won't. He says a lot of Floyd fans won't like this, but it's real. He says the mistakes Floyd makes as a fighter are worse than the mistakes Manny Pacquiao makes. The only mistake Pacquiao makes is that he lunges. With him throwing 1 million brain damages, which is his nickname for power punches, at a lightning pace, it would be hard as hell for anyone to capitalize on him lunging. you will get that. You will get your butt ate up if you try. He says Juan is the only one out of 50 fights who had the power to make him pay, but Floyd, standing there with his glove tucked, no defense on his left side, eating slow punches from Cotto, was just horrible. He's basically a sitting duck for an old Cotto. This fool had both hands down like Martinez. I've never known Floyd to fight with both hands down like a sitting target. Martinez's defense, his head movement, his technical abilities are very much underrated. He says when he has his hands down, he's not showboating, risking getting hit like Floyd is. And when he, like Floyd did against Cotto, he says Martinez has his hands down because he knows you won't be able to land and you won't see his fast hands coming. That's a style he's mastered, not a style Floyd has mastered. So if you're a true fan of the sport and you see Pacquiao is more complete in and out of the ring, how could you become a Floyd fan? Easily, because you're biased and you pick and choose the fighters to show different treatment towards. He says Pac's defense is way underrated. His only flaw, as I mentioned above, is that he has a tendency to lunge forward. Listen, Manny Pacquiao, thanks for the email, T. Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather, listen, today, let's be real. Whether you like Floyd, whether you like Pacquiao, whether you hate Floyd, whether you hate Pacquiao, it's neither here nor there. But here's the facts. The facts is, and this is coming from a guy who predicted that Pacquiao would beat Floyd 2 years ago or 3 years ago when they should have fought, even 2 years ago. But I'm not so sure right now. As far as Floyd goes, you can't take anything away from his defensive abilities. You can't take away anything from his dedication to the sport. And you certainly can't take away anything of his hand speed and overall boxing ability. The only thing that you can knock Floyd for is, A, not being too exciting in the ring, and B, cherry-picking opponents. Now, it's a matter of an argument. Some people think he doesn't cherry-pick or whatever. It's neither here nor there. He's at the end of his career. We can't expect Floyd to keep going on and on and on. Floyd's going to – I think this might be his last year. I think he's going to fight these last two fights, one in May, one in September, and he's going to call it a day. Unless he loses. Then maybe he hangs around. If he walks away undefeated, I think that's great. I don't think it's fair to compare this constant comparison between Floyd and Pacquiao. I think when it's all said and done, the history books are going to favor Manny Pacquiao, and they're going to blame Floyd for ducking Manny, regardless of whether you believe that's a truth or not. I really think that when both careers are over, that is going to be what is going to be discussed. The fight that never happened. The fight that never happened that should have happened. And I agree that it should have happened, even if they decide to have that fight now or next year or something. You're not going to see the two guys in their prime. Now, Alex and I were talking about it a few minutes ago. You got to put in perspective about the issue of Floyd and his last couple of fights. He has tried to at least impress to a degree with his excitement level. And his two fights, with his last fight with Cotto and the one prior to that with Victor Ortiz, they were exciting. And as much as I'm critical of Floyd legally sucker punching Victor Ortiz, I was ready to give Floyd all the accolades for that fight because, in my opinion, he was looking good, man. I think I gave the first round to Victor Ortiz, but then after that, Floyd was just, taking control. I also thought it was appalling and uncalled for that Victor Ortiz lunged his head, and I feel that the referee, which, Joe Cortez obviously is not going to be able to be Floyd's private referee anymore since he's retired, but I think that it was appalling that he did not disqualify immediately Victor Ortiz at that point. That fight should have ended right there as a disqualification, and Floyd would have gotten all the accolades he deserved. Instead, that fight went to a point where Joe Cortez once again lost control in that fight and basically set up Floyd for the legal sucker punch. Was it legal? 100% it was legal. It was protect yourself at all times. Was it a classy thing to do? Absolutely not. It was one of the most classless things I've ever seen. So therefore, it kind of tainted a performance that was shaping up to be really good. As far as his fight against Miguel Cotto is concerned, you could say all you want about Miguel Cotto being older and everything else, which is definitely true. However, one thing I saw in that fight, first of all, Floyd dominated the fight. There was nobody in the world that thought Cotto won except for Cotto. But what we did see in that fight, as far as I was concerned, is I saw Floyd I saw Cotto have the ability to beat Floyd at his own game. And when Floyd let him get him against the ropes and in the corner and was leaning his head back and all that happy stuff, I thought Cotto should have taken advantage by working the body. He did not. He went headhunting. Ultimately, Floyd came out looking fantastic in that. My argument with Robert Agos Guerrero is I think that Robert Agos Guerrero would incorporate a similar game plan to fight Floyd Mayweather should he get the opportunity. The difference is going to be that Robert Agos Guerrero will not get suckered into headhunting. And Robert Agos Guerrero will launch a full-fledged body attack onto Floyd, and it's going to give Floyd trouble. I think that if Floyd gets by Robert Agos Guerrero, which he's fully capable of doing, I think a lot of critics like myself will be silenced. You know, if Floyd puts on a great show against a guy like Robert Agos Guerrero, despite the naysayers that feel that that's not a good fight, or despite the people that feel that Floyd should be fighting Saul Alvarez instead, I'm for one that disagree. If Floyd beats the Ghost, and he beats him decisively, I'm not talking about some robbery decision or something like that, but if Floyd dominates a fight against Robert Agos Guerrero, I, for one, will give him all the credit that we need to give him. And for a guy that's 36 years old during the end of his career, you know, wrapping up his career, to fight 4 fights against bigger, stronger guys, younger fighters, has to be recognized. But we have to wait to see what the outcome is first.
Wake up. It's time for the It's Too Early for a Trivia Question.
And by the way, for all the Floyd fans out there, even if he loses to Robert Agos Guerrero or Saul Alvarez or anyone else he should fight, I'm talking about Floyd, I'm still going to give him credit for fighting Robert Agos Guerrero. There's nothing wrong with a loss, Floyd. And especially if Floyd lost to, let's say, Robert Agos Guerrero, then they have a rematch and Floyd comes back and wins, I think that carries a lot more weight than one fight. That's just my opinion. Today's It's Too Early for a Trivia Question. Question is being brought to us by Gleason's Gym in Brooklyn, New York. Check out their amateur event this weekend at Gleason's. You can give them a call, 718-797-2872. 718-797-2872, or visit our website, www.BillyCBoxing.com, and click one of the Gleason Gym banners, and you'll be able to get there. Buy yourself some tickets. There's nothing else really going on this weekend. Check it out. Gleason's always puts on a great show. You need to be there live, and make sure you mention Billy C. and get the discount on that. Today's It's Too Early for a Trivia Question. Question is being brought to us by, well, I just told you Gleason's Gym, but it's being... The questions are being supplied by Henry Haskell, and this is a tough one. We may have to look for Henry for some hints, but who is the only fighter who never held a world title, but he stopped a future or former lightweight and light heavyweight champ? Now, remember, it's or, so you know we don't give away too much. What former fighter never held a world title, but he stopped a future or former lightweight and light heavyweight? Huge. Lightweight, light heavyweight. If you know this answer and you're the first one, you'll win the prize. Email me, Billy@TalkinBoxing, TalkinBoxing.com.
This day in boxing history.
And finally, this day in boxing history is being brought to us by Campanero and Tomkovich. If you're looking for a lawyer, use the ones that keep my ass out of trouble. That is Campanero and Tomkovich. Give them a call today, 845-221-4099. 845-221-4099. Let Campanero and Tomkovich knock out your legal problem. 845-221-4099. On this day, February 13th in 1993, James Toney knocks out Iran the Blade Barkley in the 9th round to win the IBF World Super Middleweight title. That took place on this day, February 13th in 1993 in Las Vegas. Think about that date for a second. James Toney, 1993. All right, we're talking 10 years ago. 10 years ago. All right, and actually, we're talking almost 20 years ago, right? 93, 2003, 2013, 20 years ago we're talking about. And James Toney is still fighting. Got to give the guy credit. 20 years ago, I'm talking 10, I couldn't even add. A good thing I didn't have to take my socks and shoes off. Hey, one thing I want to add real quick. Yesterday we got a lot of response on the Primo Carnera thing. I have one thing to say about that. You know, if when push comes to shove, you know, if in somebody's, and we know that they're in most, but in people's record books, you know, if they're going to forever be etched a name like Hasim Rahman being a world heavyweight champion, or Francisco Dominani, or Ray Mercer, or Tommy Morrison, when you name those names, and we say, well, they fought everybody who they fought or who was available to them, and there were 4 and 5 different titles, and they're on the record books. They're in those record books as world champions. We need to give Primo Carnera a little more respect than what he's getting. Remember, there was only one champion when he was out there, and he, too, fought everyone that was available to him. Make sure you tune in tomorrow morning, same bad time, same bad channel. There's only one channel, the Fight Now channel. Call your local television provider and tell them you want the Fight Now channel and see Sports Channel lineup. It's that simple. Pick up the phone and call for all the information about the channel. You can find it on the website, www.fightnow.com. See you all tomorrow. Ciao, baby.